Okay, so welcome again.
Hello, hello.
This is our second podcast. So we actually have decided to change the name of it. We don't know yet what it's going to be because, well, there's one podcast already with the same name. So we have an idea of what we want, but we're not sure yet. So you're gonna figure out when this is out. Obviously, you're gonna see it in the intro, and yeah. So this is
Take two.
What?
Take two. Second episode.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I thought.
Or
you told
even
me...
take two of a name.
I thought you were telling me like no.
Restart.
Restart.
No.
This was pretty bad, so restart it. Okay. Cool. That's fine. So I'm Philippa or Pippa, and
Matt.
welcome here again.
Hello.
And yeah, so let's start by discussing what we're drinking today. The cocktail of the podcast today.
This is a Widow's Kiss, comprised of 2 parts Calvados, and then 1 part Benedictine, 1 part Yellow Chartreuse, a couple dashes of Angostura as well.
Yeah, very nice. So it is a bit of a boozy one.
Yeah.
But it's quite herbal. First thing we discussed a minute ago is how much it tastes like cardamom, and it's like the first thing that comes through.
It's more honey.
Yeah, I do taste honey. I do taste honey, but like when I tasted it at the beginning, when you have a mouthful, it's a lot sweeter. If you just have the taste in the tip of your tongue, so when I tried it from the bar spoon, I could feel the cardamom right away. So it was quite strong on it. Because obviously we don't know the recipes for Benedictine or Yellow Chartreuse because they're secret recipes. So they have a lot of herbs and spices that we don't know of. Most likely both or one of them has a lot of cardamom, and that's what kind of comes through.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. But it kind of is like, even though it's super sweet on the touch, like it's a honey sweet.
Very sweet. It is very sweet.
You get that burn, the alcohol burn coming down. So it's a bit deceiving. Even though it's quite sweet, you still have the potency of the cocktail.
Definitely.
So yeah, it's very nice, to be honest. I think it's actually a quite good boozy summer drink, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've only really had the 1 sip so far. I don't immediately jump to sessioning on these.
Oh, no. This is one... It's not probably the one you start with.
No.
But it's not the one you finish.
I think I'd be more likely to finish with this than to start with this. But there's definitely other things to finish with.
I think it's the one you start when you go for the boozy drinks. You know, if you're going towards the route of Manhattan's old fashions, I guess if you start out with this one, it's an easier like transition. You know, if you're having first daiquiris or mai tais or white lady, so it's a good transition, I would say. All right, so we've discussed what we were going to talk about today.
Yeah,
and we were thinking about talking about our Doorman stories, our bouncer stories.
Yeah.
Because we have a few, obviously. We have, we've worked for beer for a while, and we worked for one of the largest at the time
like
bars.
The flagship store.
Yes.
When I joined,
late
at
nights
least.
In Soho. So a lot of shit happens, basically. A lot happens there. And the only thing, even though like things seem to come and go, people seem to come and go, like in terms of staff. It seems like you go through, if you stay for longer than maybe 2-3 years, you see like these teams being built and rebuilt, and of bartenders as floor staff, and you have families that come and go.
There's always like generations.
There's
to a
generations,
team,
exactly. But there's always the ones that have stayed like a rock, and they've always been the doorman.
Yeah, I like, even if I think further back when I used to work for Wetherspoons, long time ago.
Yeah.
We used to get doorman for the weekend. There were 2 guys named Ben and Alban, were their names.
Okay.
They were there every week. Well, except maybe 1 or 2, of course. But they were there. So far as I know, they're still there on the weekends.
You said Wetherspoons, right?
Yeah, Wetherspoons. Yeah. It was a local one. Busy, but, nothing too bad. And I remember, I think it was Ben. He just did it as a part-time job. But there's something about the way like a good doorman is to do with where they're always respectful, they've switched on.
The good ones, yes. The good ones, yes. Yeah.
Switched on. I know this guy. I bought him 2 years ago.
God, yeah.
It's like I know your face, and
it's an underrated skill in my opinion.
It really is.
Because
really is.
you have to have this balance of being nice to the guests, being welcoming, being nice and helpful, but you also have to like flip the switch and just be like unforgiving.
This guy Ben, I remember a story with him, and it's to do with that always being switched on and that kind of ability to flip and like reading a situation.
Yeah.
Like situational awareness that I don't have. And I remember it was back in Wetherspoons, obviously. There were these 3 guys who, were dicking about the bar and whatnot. But they'd just come in, they'd ordered a round, and then one of them had tried to slide, it was a bottle of, something, tried to slide it along the bar to his mate and knocked it over.
Of course he did.
Yeah, doing so. And then didn't want to pay for it. Because he's like, oh no, I spilled it, I haven't even drunk it, like 1 minute. And I was like,
every single time someone spills something, they want an extra one for free.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean, like, it's only on our discretion. Like, if
it is at the bartender's discretion, I'd say. And it's
the thing is, don't expect it, by the way. Like, it's not really our job to do. If you spill your drink accidentally, it's not our responsibility to actually replace it. If we do it out of our own, like, sympathy for you. Yeah. Or if we really like you, it's like, you know what? Yeah, sure. But if it's... Okay. Yeah, our cat just knocked something over. But otherwise, like, don't feel like it's your right to do it because at home if you spilled the drink,
don't get me wrong,
you'd still have to replace it, and technically you lost money when you did it. So don't think it's your given right. Okay.
Like there's times where it's like that's not really feasible.
Yeah.
I remember in bit 1.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are like, oh, can I have 20 shots of tequila, and you be like, all right, here you go. And they're like, I can have a tray. Okay, there's a tray.
That would be so good.
And they'd be like this, and someone would bump into them, and they'd spill.
It just goes everywhere.
All of their shots, and they'd be like, can I get some more? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have to charge you again. Like, I can't give you 20 shots. We can't lose 20 shots of tequila.
I'm not going to give you like 50 quid for free. I'm sorry. Like, you could have literally just like taken in slowly one by one. Or bring your friends.
You don't need to take these to the table. Bring them all to the bar. And go, I'll get these shots. We'll have them. And
exactly.
Fuck off. So. They knocked over this bottle and then didn't want to pay for it. Yeah. And I was like, you need to pay for this. And he saw, this, whatever was going on, comes over and is like, what's happening? And I was like, he doesn't want to pay for this thing he spilt. And the guy's like, well, no, I'm not paying for it. And turns around. He's got the bottle, in his hand. And the guy's saying to him...
It was a glass bottle.
It was a glass bottle,
he slid a glass bottle, I see.
Glass bottle.
Yeah.
Turns to the doorman, and he's got 2 mates with him. And doorman's saying, like, right, you're going to leave because you're being a dick, but you're paying for this first. The guy's like, I'm not paying for it if you're kicking me out. And he's like, you're going to pay for this. And the guy and I was like, yeah, you're going to make me pay. And he goes, take your hands out from behind your back. Because he's got this bottle in his hand.
Ah, yeah, of course.
And he's got this bottle in his hand behind his back. And this guy, Ben, I remember he's like, just bear hugs him. Picks him up. The other doorman has, had an eye, comes along, grabs one of the other guys. They push him into a corner. It was a blind corner as well. And I remember
they know all the blind spots, man.
Yeah, man. They
don't think they don't know the blind spots in the cameras. They do.
If they want to fuck you up, they fuck you up. And I remember, like, regulars, other guests were like, wow, that was a bit much, wasn't it? Like, you sort of did them dirty.
Yeah, and sometimes they have a bit of an inner anger that they want to take out on you. If you think you're gonna fool them, you're not. Like,
well, I'll be honest, you're just in confrontation and conflict all day, every day, or it's going to be exceptionally rare.
I mean, you always have that war mentality. When you have people that go to war and they have that PTSD and they're always on edge and they hear certain things and they have certain triggers and you just fucking... Once that trigger happens, there's just your brain's turned into survival mode. And it's the same thing with security.
I remember even talking with some security and they'd be like, oh, yeah, me and so-and-so, a different security guard, we were out, we had the weekend off, we went out, and it was like, someone gave us some trouble. Or, someone had an issue, and we were like, yeah, we'll fuck these guys up. Like, it's not all security who have that,
Yeah,
not all of them have that psycho love to fight mentality.
It's not everyone, but some of them have.
Some do.
that problem. Yeah,
it is a little troubling, I'd say.
I think it's the problem with the industry where, unfortunately, their job is being in the front lines, and they're not really safe. Like if you do a job that you don't feel like your safety is the priority, which isn't. Everyone else's security and safety is priority except yours. You're the front line. Of course, it's gotta fuck with you a bit.
But what I mean is like, so in the case of that story where, I was told by one security, it was like, oh, me and whoever else were out the other day. There was 4 lads, arguing. They were like, we'll fuck you up. And we were like, all right, let's fucking go. Come outside. And, four guys who are just, living for the weekend.
Yeah.
Had a few too many beers. Were like scrap fighting people who fight.
Yeah.
Who fight people for a living. Mm-hmm. There's something I do really think that a driving factor is that adrenaline and that sense of power. I'd say.
I mean, who isn't, like, some people are addicted to that. Who isn't? Like, I think we even, like... when
being addicted to it is definitely the thing.
I mean, even when we were in BL1, I think even working in that, as bartenders, working in that mentality, which is, like, churning out drinks, and you have happy hour, and you're doing 20 drinks at a time, and you have a queue of, like, 3 people by 6...
That survivalist mentality.
We kind of lived off of that.
We
enjoyed the adrenaline. Once we get off of it, everyone that quits BL1 afterwards because of the adrenaline rush of the happy hour... like, they kind of, like, you kind of
long
suffer.
For it.
Yeah, you suffer a little bit because everything's too calm. It's too quiet, like, and you don't understand what it is about it, and you kind of seek it out in some ways.
There's also the, I don't know if it's like this, it's not the survivor mentality, it's more the survival of the fittest mentality.
Yeah.
Where I was like, how many people did you see come and go? And they were like, oh no, it's too late, I'm really tired, God, I don't know. And it's like, you're too weak to do this.
Yeah, we used to have this mentality of...
you feed off this, I'm good enough to do it.
I'm the strong one.
I love doing it.
I'm the top taker.
Because I can.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I can do it. I can do 14-hour shifts to holding like 2 double grip bottles for both hands, like all the time, and I can do it. And basically... is just being able to just have 1 meal a day for 25 minutes break and do 14 hours like it's nothing, or do 70-hour like weeks in Christmas time because you want to do that 51K, which is not for you, by the way.
So I just want to refer this back.
Sorry, yeah, I'm kind of rambling a little bit.
I want to refer this back to that sort of survival of the fittest. I'm the guy who can do this.
Yeah.
Mentality to do with Doorman is like,
100%.
People step up to challenge me, and I fuck them up every time. Yeah, no matter how rough the day is, I always survive. I've never quit. Like, and I think even
it is a lot of testosterone, to be honest.
Yeah, man, a lot of adrenaline, and even like that team mentality. I think. Because I'll be honest, it's not you versus the world. It's you and your pals, you and your boys.
Yeah.
You're in the trenches together. Really, like if it kicks
off,
got
each other's back.
If it kicks off and a group of 20 lads wants to fight you outside, well, you and the 3, 4, however many other doormen. Yeah. It's you versus them.
Yeah, and they're our saving grace. Let's be honest, because when we worked in an environment like we did, where people would throw glasses at us, there was a point. I remember a story. Someone threw cans of Moretti to some of our colleagues and say Brexit, screaming Brexit.
Some people are scum.
Yeah, exactly. Or, like, I remember one time, it's a good thing that we used to switch to glass to plastic.
Oh, yeah.
And someone had an altercation with you, and they just threw their glasses to you. I remember you turn your back, and they just turned the glass, like, they just threw the glasses at you by the tail.
I think I remember that. They didn't hit me. Yeah. It hit, like, the side, and I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. Relay? No.
That's the cat.
She's trying to jump on everything.
Yeah.
Stop it. If we go back to the times when we were in BL1, it's interesting that a lot of them were like the sweetest people. Even today, we pass by when we go out and we pass by the door, and we say hi to them. They ask how we're doing. How the sweetest guys. They care about how we're doing. And then the minute they're at the door talking with someone, there's an issue. It's like a face of iron. Like they're
It's like a different person.
Yeah, what's that Arnold Schwarzenegger character? Not the Predator. The other one. What's the name of the character?
What film? I have no idea what film you're referring to.
Like he's a machine. He's a robot.
Oh, you mean the Terminator?
The Terminator. That's
How do you not know the Terminator?
Listen, I have a bad memory with names. I can't remember sometimes.
Have you seen the Terminator?
I have seen the Terminator. Yes.
Have you actually though?
Yeah, with Sarah Walker. No.
Connor. Sarah Connor.
I have memory for everything except names. I can't remember anyone's names. Okay?
All the names of films. Not only people, but films as well.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yes.
We'll watch the Terminator as well. We'll go around to it.
At some point, yeah. But I have watched it, though. I've watched the original. I think it is. Well, the one with the kid. Is that the original?
No, that's the second.
Okay, I've watched that one.
The second one is really good as well. First one's also very good. Very different films. Anyway, that's not...
Yeah, anyways. Yeah. What I was going to say is, like, they were, like... we've had, like... I remember one time there was a story where this dude, like, just kind of, like, went... Like, he just went apeshit downstairs, right? And one thing you should never do if you're out and there's an altercation... Never touch a bouncer or security on the back. Like, don't touch them. Just don't touch them.
Stay away from them.
It is the worst thing you can do. So basically, there was this guy that was, I think he was this girl's boyfriend. He was just basically, you know where this is heading already. But basically, this dude was just riled up. She just wanted to fight. And he was trying to, like, one of the security was pushing him out, getting him out. And the girl, like, and probably he was in a lock or something. He probably locked him in position, basically. And they were coming out with him. And basically she just touched the security on the side, and he just went BAM!
Full on elbow.
Yeah, and this is a big dude. These are guys that do like fucking martial arts and everything.
Yeah. It's their job to fuck people up.
This woman just did a backflip. She just did a fucking backflip, and she was out.
Yeah.
They had to call an ambulance and everything. She was done. Do not ever do that. They're in a whole other planet. Like, they have switch modes. Like, you can't just do that.
Yeah.
You know? Sorry, go back to that what you're trying to say about the story in the Witherspoons, the security.
Okay, so the thing I was getting to is that this guy, Ben, he did it as a part-time. He only did it on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I think he was a truck driver. No, it wasn't trucks. He used to drive, kind of the truck that would collect and deliver skips. He used to be involved in delivering skips and collecting skips. But the weekend, he'd mind the door. And he was the loveliest guy.
Yeah.
But I remember several occasions, like, it would kick off. And they switch on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, going into that, never touch a doorman on the back, like, they're, I mean, I think it goes without saying, and when people have had a drink, it should be said to them, but like at the end of the day, doormen are just doing their job.
Yeah, and they want to be safe.
I think going around giving people shit is not cool generally. If you're drunk,
there's this guy that still works in BL1, right? That basically is like the loveliest dude you'll ever meet. He's an old dude, an old Jamaican dude.
Yeah.
He's an old Jamaican dude that basically. He's like, "Oh, my baby, how you doing?" And it's like he always he just chills and he laughs and he's all smiles, everything. And basically, if you're working, if you're a bartender, if you're someone in the bar, he's the loveliest dude. He's got your back. He knows everything about you. Asks everything about
super friendly.
Yeah, asks how your life doing. We've haven't worked there in years, but we just pass by and we see him, and he's all smiles. He's just like his face lights up. But this dude, right, he's retired. Like, he kind of retired from Jamaica, I believe.
I don't know exactly if it's appropriate to say or not, but effectively, like, there's a history and a background of crime.
Well, there's a bit of
more organized.
Yeah.
The term being organized crime.
Yeah.
In
Jamaica.
Jamaica.
We know what he used to do basically back in Jamaica,
yeah.
and it's not like the legal stuff, let's say.
Not the legalist stuff.
Not the legal stuff.
Ah,
No,
okay.
I didn't say that.
Sorry, I thought you meant like he used to do some things, not the legalist things. So like there's a scale of legalist and least legalist.
No.
Okay, no, it's fine.
Okay. And basically, I keep saying basically, he's not like, it's very hard to piss him off. It's very hard to piss him off.
Super chill guy.
Even when the people are being cunts to him on the door, he's pretty chill. However, like, what was this story? So this is this obvious big story about an old manager of ours that worked for the industry, like worked for the company for over 10 years. So he's known him since he was in the Shoreditch venue, flagship venue, which is got a lot more gangs going around, a lot more like people from the wrong places going around. And he used to be the main security for Shoreditch. And then someone said something that pissed him off. Something that happened that
I think someone called him the N-word. I think on the
okay.
door, and he was like,
and basically, like, the other security that was with him saw him. What he does is he just turns around, grabs his gloves, and he starts putting his gloves on.
he'd have these gloves with like sort of, I don't know, some sort of
Knuckle protection.
some like hardened plastic on the outside as like protection, and he just starts taking out his gloves, putting them on. And like, you know, this Doorman we're talking about, he's not a like a big dude. He's like, you know, an average build.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, most securities you see them and they're these big, beefy,
Yeah.
big, huge dudes. And I don't know who the other Doorman was with him, but I imagine it to be someone much bigger.
Yeah.
And you know, the guy we're talking about starts putting on the gloves. This other Doorman starts freaking out and it's like, no, man, come on, oh, it's cool. And saying, man, you gotta leave. It's gonna get very bad.
Yeah. Some of them are the sweetest people when you meet them. You know, you work with them, but they have this side. Like, there's another one that's let's call him Lenny, who's an accountant by day. Do you remember?
Yeah. Worked in an office.
Yeah, he was an accountant by day and he was security by night.
By weekend.
And he was also he was like cold and like very composed.
Yeah.
He was always very composed. But then when shit kicked off, that guy was like fucking Krav Maga master. I swear to God, I've seen him like before. There was this guy, this dude, old man that was harassing, and he kissed me on the neck once.
Right.
I was still in training, so I was doing, I was on the floor. And I think I leaned over and he kissed my neck. And I told her, like, mate, like, he's already harassed someone else. He needs to go. And, you know, he just pushed. He was a big fat dude, right? And he just pushed him out. And the guy tried to come at him and fight him. And I just went, and he just puts him down on a squat position. Just down on, like, his face in the dirt, in the puddles.
Yeah.
And he's just there, like, nothing happened.
Just folds this guy up.
Yeah, and then luckily police came right in. By chance, basically. But it's just, they're different people. They're a different breed of people, like the good ones.
Well, I remember this Lenny, as you've named him.
Yeah.
I remember, so obviously, working late nights, typical hospitality. You finish, you stay and have a couple beers, whatever. And, of course, the security would always be invited. Like, oh, you know, you're part of the team, you're keeping an eye on everything. Yeah. You know, you've had a tough shift as well. Join us for a drink. This guy, he was stone cold. He was like, "No, don't drink, going home."
Yeah,
like
he was just very serious,
regimented kind of mentality.
Yeah,
or it was extremely rare he'd stay.
What's another story from the guy from the security in Cahoots, actually?
So it was there was never any trouble, or exceptionally rarely there was trouble. I recall a story being, so there was just the one Doorman, always, traditionally. And he often acted as like a host. You know, really, he was tall, quite slim, let's say. Slender?
Yeah.
Or lean? Yeah, really tall though. And, there was very rarely, you know, issues. It wasn't like a club type environment. It was, you know, much more sit down, table service, cut people off when they're, you know, had enough. Or you just tell them, oh, this table's reserved, you need to leave now. Or if they show up and it's a mistake to let them in, okay, maybe you underpour their drinks. You know, that's how people were dealt with.
Yes, yeah.
So it was really, really rare to get confrontation and kicking off. So the doorman would typically act almost in a host-like way. They'd be able to help, you know, greet guests, bring them down, keep an eye on things. You know, they're really chill, really relaxed, super, super friendly.
Yeah, it's a different environment because it's a bit more high-end or a bit more sitting down service. So you're
Yeah,
much more worried about
I'd say it's a more respectable service.
Exactly, to the guests. While like the place we used to work in BL1 is more about keeping like the license and the security of everyone. So that that wasn't such a priority.
Well, it was also just about churning out money.
Yes.
Like, this guy's a problem.
Yes, exactly.
Get out, get someone fresh in.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
So, yeah, going back to Cahoots, I remember being told a story by the doorman there, and he told me, because he was like, I'm not really, you know, particularly violent or whatever. I think, I don't know, like, as I was there longer and longer and got to know him better and better, I feel like there were times where he told me conflicting things to do with, no, I'm very peaceful and I never really lose my temper, or other times where it was like, I was so angry, I was going to kill him.
I think people have a certain idea of themselves that might not be the same as what the people perceive of them.
True.
You
true.
know?
I mean,
sometimes you just have a different assumption who you are.
Well, and also, you know, you can, Lenny, let's go back to Lenny. You could walk past him on the street and you wouldn't think of him as Krav Maga master, folding people up on the weekends for kicks.
Yeah, exactly.
You know. So, yeah. Let's go this story that I think there were like 4 guys kicking off, causing trouble, been asked to leave, and we're saying like, nah, fuck off, da-da-da. So this one doorman goes downstairs and, you know, he's not built, but he's tall, and he goes down, he says, guys, you know, I've come down because of the 4 doormen here, I'm the nicest. He's the only guy. I'm the nicest, and I'm just going to ask you to leave. Otherwise, we're all going to come down here and we're going to pull you out. We don't really want to do that because we're not that venue, but we will pull you out.
Yeah. So
and it will not be nice.
Yeah, exactly.
So, guys, you know, it's best you just walk out. And these guys were like, all right then. No backup. Just go in, bold-faced lie.
Yeah, you basically just bluffed. He said like, oh yeah, there's other 4 guys downstairs.
They're not as nice as me.
Yeah, exactly. So if you guys want to behave like this, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And luckily for him, that worked. But it's like that kind of like mastermind mentality is just perfect, I swear. It's just really nice. And then there's, I just remember one of the security in BL1. He's quite a big dude. He's a big dude. He's the sweetest guy. He's like he's like squishy. Like you hug him and he's like, and your arms go like this. You can't really like go around. But he's the sweetest guy, and he's like, I remember one time we were closed already, and we decided to and this guy was just being a dickhead, and we were closed already, and the guy wouldn't fucking leave. He was just trying to cause trouble. And then he's like, okay, let's go. And he literally, all he did was push him against. He just walked in front of him. And the guy was trying to go. And there was a guy with muscles. Yeah. The guy was trying to go. And he was just walking. He
walks through him.
He just walked. And he was like, the guy was like this. Trying to get through. And then he just pushed him out. He's just walking in front of him. Yeah. That's just crazy to me. But yeah, also, Tyler.
Yeah.
Tyler.
That guy was a giant.
He was the sweetest dude. He was 19 years old. He was like 2 meters tall.
He was taller than that.
I have a picture. I'm going to put up the picture.
He was like 6'7" or 6'8".
I'll put my hand next to his.
Yeah.
And I'll put the picture up and you'll see the difference.
Your hand was the size of like...
Yeah. And here's the thing. I don't know how it happened. One time he was out. He came out. He was the sweetest dude, young, you know. And he came out
with his missus.
With his girlfriend. His girlfriend was the same height as him.
Unbelievable.
And it was like you see a sea of heads and then he was like, boop. And he just popped out.
Head and shoulders above.
Yeah. We were discussing of another topic to talk about.
Well, actually, it came up because it's your birthday coming up soon, and we're starting to think about what to do.
Oh yes.
So you know,
it's still like 2 months away.
Yeah, but you know, you've got to plan things in advance.
No, the thing is, once you have friends, they work in hospitality. You have to give them at least like a month to 2 months notice, so they can actually request a holiday, and because when you work on rota,
everyone works wild days.
Yeah, you work on rotas, you work by shift, so you never know which days you're going to be off. So you have to do it like some places is a month in advance, some places are 3 weeks in advance. So it's like, okay, I'm going to say 2 months in advance so people can book and get it off for sure. Yeah. So
guys, it's going to be here this time. Come along, join us. No, I'm joking.
No, please don't. No. I have cats. They don't like people, so don't do that. But basically, I was thinking of, having some people go to Stockwell, have like a Portuguese food in a restaurant.
Go out for a meal, and then afterwards come back home,
we
have
a
some
bar,
drinks.
We have an actual bar.
Yeah,
so
we've got our booze stock.
Exactly. So we're like, what are we going to do? We're going to have we could pre-batch some cocktails for people. We can ask what people want, and we can maybe like pre-batch a gimlet. Or, I don't know, an old-fashioned, a Negroni, and, just have...
have, some easy-to-go-to drinks.
Yeah.
That sort of covers a basis. Mm-hmm. Just so when people show up, just pour them out. Mm-hmm. Pour them out, add some ice.
Yeah, exactly.
Stir them, whatever. Like, just simplify what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we thought, and we were discussing about, like, what we've discussed in the past.
Yes.
To do with, is pre-batching in bars... Like, do we like it or not for service?
Yeah, exactly. Because, so we've worked with both. So you need to understand our history. So pre-batching has become quite prevalent at least in London, hospitality. For like the last 5 years, it became a very big thing. And it's got worse and worse and worse. Not worse, but it got more intensified to the point where people just put everything in one bottle for every single cocktail in their menu.
I mean, if I may, sorry, interject. Like the idea that's the issue with pre-batching is that things have to be long life, or I mean, people do have like part fresh and part.
But the thing is now, because of the rotovapes used in a lot of bars, they start making what is basically called the recomposed lime or recomposed lemon or recomposed juices, which means it's not actually the juice. They just basically distill the key flavors of a fruit, like lime, for example. Instead of using lime juice, they recompose. So they use the rotary evaporator to take the key ingredients or the key flavors of lime juice, or the extract, basically. And then they just add citric acid or malic acid to create the exact same acidity of lemon juice or lime juice. And whatever else they use in terms of juices. Or sugar as well. And if you do that, that means your cocktail can be long life because it doesn't actually have any natural ingredients in it. Doing that means you can actually pre-batch every single ingredient of your cocktail into a bottle or into individual servings, which is what a lot of bars do. Listen, if that's your thing, cool. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's your signature, cool. The problem is pre-batching is taking over to a point where I believe it's unnecessary. Like everything in the industry's got a place. Every kind of technique's got a place. But if you overdo it for everything, you're bound to have chaos. You're bound to have something that is actually not a good and creates problems. I believe that having bars just doing pre-batching for everything, not every bar is like that. I'm just going to say that. Like someone like Tyre Elementary or Him Cook, they've made a living and they've made a craft of doing everything pre-batch. And they actually, behind the scenes, they do a lot. And they're actually creating wines. They're creating extracts from fruits or infusions that actually make sense. You actually know what you're doing. And they teach the bartenders as well. I'm talking about those bars such as that. They don't use rotary evaporators. They don't use things that are complicated and they take time that you can't do during service. We're talking about something like a daiquiri, an old-fashioned, a Negroni, an espresso martini pre-batched, which only has 3 to 4 ingredients. And when they do that, basically the bartenders in that space forget their skill sets. We come from an environment like Biat One, where we've learned to basically do everything from scratch.
Yeah,
we can say whatever you want about the company, but basically there used to be no such thing as pre-batching. You do everything. You have to learn where to grab the bottles, where it's all about muscle memory, and it becomes a bit like a sport. That's what we enjoyed about it. Yeah. And your skills are spot on. You remember every single ingredient of a cocktail by heart, how much it is, how many bottles you can grab at the same time with the same measurement. And you can do one-stop shop with 5 different cocktails. They all have lime. You do quarter, half, 2/3, 1 ounce, put the bottle back, you never pick it up again. That's what was cool and fun. It was like playing a game.
It's like the artistry or skillmanship.
Which is dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I remember working in places where pre-batching was taking over to a point and everything was just opening a bottle and serving. Yeah, makes the service easy. Makes the service easier. You just have to grab the bottle. Remember how much you have to put in. However, most of the bartenders, if they're not doing the pre-batching themselves or the prep themselves, they forget what goes in it. And a lot of the times, if the guests ask what's in it, they don't know. This is the reality of the majority of middle-end bars. This is the majority.
Yeah, middling.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the first way to look at this is like all the different reasons for and against. So I think if you want to discuss pre-batching, you think, okay, why would you do it? You go, oh, well, you can make the service easier, quicker, more consistent. You can, I suppose an argument is maybe make things long life, in the term of, as you said, like recomposed lemon, recomposed lime. I think, and to do with the artistry, I think, imagine if you went to the restaurant in the world that had the best food. It's a really difficult analogy to make. I think if you went to the restaurant that had the best food, and they had made their food in such a way that the ingredients were prepared, that everything was just microwaved. When you ordered it, they took it out of the fridge, stuck it in the microwave.
Yeah.
Ding. 3-4 minutes later, they scoop it on a plate, make it look pretty, send it out. Now, it could be the most delicious food.
It loses the magic. It loses the show.
Could be the most delicious food. But if you went to a restaurant and you were served this, and it's a really difficult sort of dichotomy, like two sides, to go, oh, it is really good, and I do really like it. And I go, actually, we just microwaved that.
Yeah.
It does lose its magic.
Well, I think I think people are starting to forget that bartending is supposed to be entertainment. It's supposed to be...
That's very true.
So the thing about being a bartender is to be able to be social, to talk to people, talk about what you do, and to talk about how you've come to create that cocktail and the passion behind it. But it's not just that. The physical skill set of having to be able to talk and do your hand movements and, be able to grab different things with your hands and, pour beautifully, and grab different things. That gives actually infatuation to people, how nice it looks. If you actually, imagine yourself as a guest, or you probably have been the guest, you're sitting down and someone's talking to you, oh yeah, I want to have this cocktail. I was like, yeah, cool, no worries. And then you see them just opening a bottle, pour 200 mils out of it, and you just stir it, put it into a glass and give it to you. Or someone is actually talking to you, and he could be talking about you, about the different ingredients they've put in. But imagine the same scenario where someone is actually pouring the different 4 ingredients they put in front of you and talking to you about them at the same time as they grab the bottle. And you see them using both hands while talking to you, stirring and pouring, and pouring in, layering different ingredients at the same time, grabbing the glass. Which one do you think looks more impressive?
I'll say that. So for me, I think going into cocktail bartending, like from the outside, wanting to go and I was like, wow, this is a real skill. Like, it's super impressive. Mm-hmm. How do you remember all these things? How are you acting so fast? How are you so efficient? All of that is cut out a lot by, one bottle pours.
Yeah.
And I appreciate in certain cases where maybe you have a carbonated drink.
Yes, exactly.
That is just like a pop off a bottle cap, or...
If there's a reason for it, it makes sense.
Yeah,
if there's a reason that you can't do it within service as people order, pre-batching makes sense then. Or if your garnish is very complicated, it makes sense maybe to pre-batch to cut the time that you take to make that drink.
Whenever it's like a whole menu, that's what I think is the weirdest.
How many colleagues did you have that complain that they don't remember the drinks?
Man, even I can remember drinks.
Yeah, just honest. Because even if your bar actually tells you to make a test to remember it, within 3 months you probably will forget
100%.
What's inside of it.
100%.
And I think this is the problem. Like, bartenders, since pre-batching was introduced and it became like a thing that every single bar started doing, bartenders started to forget what goes into the drinks. And they also forget the multitasking one-stop shot skill because they don't do it anymore. And it doesn't really, their job became easier, but their intellectual, their intellectual knowledge kind of diminishes, by the service. What they and a lot of people say like, oh, what goes in this, or would you recommend? And then you actually look at the drinks and it's like, I don't remember what's in these drinks because
I think there's a vodka and I know it's it's 40 mils of fresh whatever juice and maybe some fresh citrus. There's this thing, that thing, and 60 mils of this pre-mixed batch. But like I do get the argument for consistency.
I do understand that too, but it's a gamble maybe to let your bartenders to remember to have the consistency.
Yeah.
But you might have more highly skilled bartenders behind the bar if you let them be the ones being the consistent people, or being the ones that are in charge of the consistency.
They're in control more,
Yeah.
So I think.
And you can do regular tests.
This is. Sorry, no, finish what you're saying.
So I'll just to jump in, but as I say, you can regularly test your bartenders. You can regularly test them weekly, bi-weekly to make sure they know the ingredients. And sometimes people make mistakes, and it's okay to go to your guest and say, sorry, I think we put the wrong ingredient in that drink. I'll do it for free. I'll do it another one. If you like that one, it's fine, but I can make you one that might be more in tune to what the actual drink is. I'm sorry, I'm tired, and maybe I didn't do the right thing. If you don't mind. The people like if you're human. Like, hospitality is not about being perfect. It's about being human and being in touch and being creative.
Honest.
Yes.
Like, I'll agree. When
people don't mind if you make a mistake and you admit it. Most of the 100%, time.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
I personally find it impressive.
Yeah.
I remember when we were in Portugal, first day we arrived, we got there quite late. There was a nearby cafe, like a steak place. We went, I can't remember the name. It was, what's the name of the place? Cafe Come with the B.
I'll put the picture up if I can.
Okay.
But
anyway, went there, we had steaks. We both got an egg added. Like, I'll have a fried egg on mine. Steaks arrived. We both ordered a fried egg.
Yes.
Pippers, yours had a fried egg on, mine didn't.
Yes. And
as they delivered, I said, oh, I'm sorry, I actually ordered a fried egg as well. And they said, oh, yeah, you did. But when it was being cooked, we popped it. So, we'll bring you another one in a moment.
Yeah, we're just bringing the steak with
the sauce
and everything
We're not
first.
serving you a popped egg. And seeing as this steak is ready, we're not going to leave it on the side for you. So it's here. We'll bring the egg along, shortly. And I was like, oh, yeah, perfect. I don't want my steak sat on the side,
not
getting
just
cold.
That, like
I don't want, a popped egg. Like, this is the kind of service that's spot on. In the same way with drinks, you can go, oh, I've made a mistake with this. Sorry, that's wrong. This needs to go, and I'll bring another one shortly.
Yeah, because it was the bar we went, Toca da Raposa, which means like the fox's burrow in Lisbon as well. And they did the exact same thing. Yeah. I remember she said, oh, I'm sorry, I was a little bit annoyed. There was a bad guest. And I remember that bad guest, and he was a cunt.
Oh, yeah.
He opened the door on a girl in the toilet. He just pushed through the fucking, latch. And the girl was peeing while he fucking did. That was.
I remember he went behind the bar and started picking up bottles.
Oh yeah, he started going behind the bar while the bartender was like busy doing other things. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing, mate?
No, fuck off.
And it's just like, anyways. And she says, I'm sorry, I was just a little bit out of sorts because of we had this bad guest and then we had other bad guests before, and I think I put the wrong ingredient in your classic. I'll do another one if you want, I don't mind. I said, you know what, it's fine. It actually tastes fine. I know, maybe you did put something different in it, but I actually you don't need to replace it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It tastes fine the way it is.
I'm happy, but thank you for addressing this.
Exactly.
I appreciate it.
It's human. We're not perfect, but let's stop trying to be perfect. That's not the point of bartending. It's supposed to be artistic. Sometimes we fuck up. But just be aware of it, it's that's very important. And the thing about I want to go back to that point of pre-batching has a point. Pre-batching has a place in the industry where it makes the shifts quicker, it makes the service quicker if needs be. If certain cocktails you cannot do some of the process like carbonation or fermentation outside of of the service. You have to do it outside of the service, sorry. And you can't do it right away. It takes time. Understand? Completely makes sense to pre-batch. However, you should not apply that for everything. You shouldn't get one technique and apply it to everything.
So here's what I was wanting to say, which is that I think an excuse that is given for mass pre-batching is, it makes the service idiot-proof. oh, it's so much easier to do the job. You know, like you can't fuck this up. Every bottle you pick up and you pour out.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's. I want to say healthy. I don't know if that's really the most appropriate word, but I think that's the healthy attitude to have. You know, again, I'm going to go back to my old Wetherspoons experience of the kitchens.
Yeah.
The kitchens, I think there were only two things in the kitchen which didn't arrive pre-cooked, and that was steaks and eggs.
Oh, yes.
Everything else that arrived was pre-cooked in some way. Bacon would arrive in big packs pre-cooked.
They were really scared people would get food poisoning or
yeah,
something.
It's this attitude of don't give people the chance to fuck it up.
Yeah.
You know, the chefs there used to joke in Wetherspoons. They used to say, "We're not chefs, we're microwave technicians." That was the title they'd give themselves, because it's this attitude of like, well, you can't. I'm not going to give you the chance to fuck it up.
Yeah.
I think
it's a bit insulting if you think about it.
It is a bit insulting
because they basically they're not trusting you to do the right thing. And you know, sometimes we need to think about it. Like, why is it so prevalent that we do pre-batching? Is it because it is stunting our growth in a sense of like being able to practically know how to do things from scratch. So if it enables you to not fuck up, that means it also enables you to not learn and enables you to not evolve, and that needs to maybe be addressed and talked about. Like I remember as well in a certain bar that we worked at, that everything was pre-batched to the point of obsession, where we were not allowed to do more than 3.5 liters of pre-batch. But it was a busy place that we worked at.
It was 5 liters of pre-batch.
But it was way too little for the amount of volume of guests that place had.
You'd have a maximum of 9 bartenders, so 9 stations.
Yeah.
If you took, a standard wine bottle, or
because that's where the pre-batches then eventually
individually
would go.
Bottle, 700 mils,
but then
750
again,
mils.
That's the place that did espresso martinis and the Negronis pre-batch, which doesn't make any sense because you got 3 or 4 ingredients for each of the classical cocktails. It doesn't take a lot to do. And it would be to a point there was so much obsession that when you'd be very busy, the pre-batch would finish and they would have to take a bartender off the bar while it's busy and have one less person to bartend while the tickets were coming in to make this pre-batch, to technically make the service easier. So if you're taking away one of the bartenders out of the bar to be able to do the pre-batching for an hour, while it's like the highest volume of tickets you're getting in, and you have only one less person to be quick to do these tickets, does that make sense to make the pre? They were constantly taking one bartender out every single shift, Friday, Saturday, and Thursdays. Sometimes the bar upstairs would only have one bartender out of the 2 to get the pre-batch done, and it would just be dying alone, and things in the service would be slow, which is the opposite of what pre-batch does.
I mean, it all feeds back into that first point to do with, are you, if you don't give people the chance to work in a certain way, to be quick and learn, one-stop shop and be efficient and go like, well, I can grab these things and these multiple bottle pours and whatnot you've been talking about. If you remove the practice of dealing with that, then when shit is the fan and you have to drop a bartender, it's magnified the problem. Yeah, really.
We got these new highballs, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah, no, they look nice. First time trying them.
Dartington, the brand. It's really nice. You can find them somewhere in like TK Maxx or online as well.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you can find them other places than TK Maxx, I'm sure. We had their flutes. Yeah. Very nice.
Oh, yeah. If you want to lose your mind, if you want to lose your mind. Sanity.
Okay.
Try to find flutes that are under 200 mils. They are good. Under 200 mils, they are thin and good looking. You're going to struggle unless you want to pay a lot of money. You're going to struggle. I think, when I was working on opening the bar like last year, like with a old friend of ours, so we helped him open the bar. I was doing all the glassware, ordering all the glassware in the menu and all that. I never lost my mind the most as trying to find decent flutes that are less than 200 mils. So obviously, as you know, usually champagne or prosecco is about 125 mils.
Standard serve, yeah.
Yeah, that's the serving for the fizzy, for champagne and prosecco.
The fizzy.
If you buy anything we bought these Dartington flutes that are very nice. They're very pretty. However, I don't remember what the amount was. It was 220 mils, I think, or maybe it was 200 mils. I don't remember now. You like the measurements that you want ideally, actually. Now that I think about it, is about 150 mils. That's the amount of...
Yeah, you want it to look full.
You need like about a lip of this big. The thing is, because those glasses, I think it was 200 mils. That was the...
Or they were 220. Like they looked really nice.
But here's the thing. You try to go online and try and find glasses that are under 150 mils. You're not going to be... Either 150 mils or under. You're not going to be able to find them. And the thing is, once you do the actual like legal measurement to put in, it looks tiny on the glasses. It looked like this much because it was really wide on the bottom and it kind of curved up. And you look like the people complained about it because one thing you learn about glassware, it is not about how much they contain. It's about how much the drink looks and the ratio of the size of the glass. Yeah. If the glass, like no one ever complains if you have small coupettes and it fills up to the top. But if you have big coupettes and you put the same amount of drink, people will complain. If you were
served a pint glass that has this much in it, people are like, "What the fuck is this? Can I get a full glass, please?" You serve them a small glass that's up to the brim, but the same amount.
Yeah, we had to explain multiple times to people. I'm sorry, this is actually the amount you see all the time, and it was just difficult to be able to do it. But oh well. But that's something to think about is the illusion of glassware. And people think they're actually being mugged off just because the glassware is big, but it's not. It's just it's the amount of alcohol drinks is always the same. Anyways, moving on. So we're going to talk about London Cocktail Week.
Yes, yeah, it's going to be approaching soonish. I mean, to now. When actually is it?
So it's going to be the 12th to the 22nd of October. So it's very close to my birthday. We've always been kind of part of it rather than just... I think this year is going to be the year that we're going to more like enjoy it. Yeah. Rather than being part of it and having to plan for it, I would say. We have a friend of ours that will be able to give us some bracelets. So, we work in the hospitality for so long, we were able to get bracelets anyways.
Well, even before I was like working with cocktails, it was just a good excuse, Cocktail Week, to go out and get some cheap drinks around Central. Good
quality drinks as well for a good price. Yeah. Not always. But
not always. Yeah. Not always. Because from my experience is when it comes around to Cocktail Week, I've worked in places where understandably it's a hassle if you're told you're taking part, we need you to make a drink.
If it's not planned ahead,
I mean, it's planned ahead to a degree, but like there's often so many stipulations. Like a lot of bars work with sponsors where whatever large brand, a certain whiskey or whoever is like, oh, we want you to represent, or we'd like you to use our product for London Cocktail Week, so we're going to give you some free stock or whatever. But there's always the issue of cost, because I think it's £6 a cocktail.
Oh, I was thinking it was more than that. But yeah, no.
From what I remember, it was £6 a cocktail.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it was £6. Yeah.
And so they've always got to be like super tight on their costs. So like often, my experience of seeing people try and make drinks, it's like whatever you make, we need to still make some money on it at £6. Like we don't expect to do crazy profits, but it's not 50 mils, it's 30 mils. 30 mils of alcohol. And then I don't want to add any, other liqueurs in there. Let's make our own soda that's water and, I don't know, maybe some herbs boiled.
And CO2, obviously.
Yeah, and then some sugar syrup. Like, we'll do that. That'll be nice and cheap.
Yeah, it really depends on the bar you're working, but most of the time it's like a rushed thing. It's like, fuck. So like,
shit, we've got to have something to sell for £6.
Yeah, next week is fucking coming and we promised this brand to fucking do it. Okay, let's come up with something. Like, I remember when I was working in a certain bar in the top 50. I'm not going to say which one, you can figure it out. remember I think we just come out of COVID. I think that was the London Cocktail Month. I think that was it.
Oh yeah, they did month before, didn't they?
Yeah, we did month when once we got out of COVID. I was like, okay, guys, listen. My GM's just like, he was a kind of like taking no shit kind of guy, and he was like, guys, listen. All you have to do is just pour the shit that is out of this thing. Say it's got cherry blossom something, and put the whatever soda that's in this siphon here. Yeah, so you pour 40 mils or 50 mils of this mixture of pre-batch, obviously, plus the soda on top, and we had this edible paint that we like. It was a thing that like 3 or 4 of our cocktails of the new menu had like edible paint, and it was literally this. It was like a marshmallow paint. It was the same marshmallow paint from another cocktail we had in the menu, but it's like, guys, just say it's got this vodka in the edible paint. Just say, because that was our sponsor. Our sponsor was that vodka.
Yeah.
I was like, just say it's this vodka's edible paint, okay? Don't ask me. Yes, it is the same marshmallow paint from the other cocktail, but just say when you serve it on the table.
If anyone asks, lie to them.
No, you don't ask, because we were told to, like, once you put the drink down, you tell the ingredients and tell what's in it. So it's like, just say, the edible paint's got this vodka in it, yeah? There's an edible paint with this vodka, okay? Cool. Just remember to say that. That's it. And that's kind of how sometimes it works,
Yeah.
By the way, a lot of unethical things were going on in this bar. Don't take it that every bar does this. But it is a bit of a thing that is very stressful to bars to be able to do that £6 drink. We had another bar that said, "Oh, guys, we can do a little competition. We can anyone that wants to do the drink for it was Bullet at the time for this whiskey. You want to do? It's like it's gonna have to be a long drink."
Yeah.
And use Bullet Rye, I think it was.
No, it's just regular Bullet.
It was a regular Bullet?
Yeah, regular Bullet.
Hey, guys, if you want to do a drink, a few of you can do it in Presente, and we'll choose which drink of you guys we like the most with the brand ambassador, and we'll put that on our London Cocktail Week. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I think as well, typically with like that setup is the brand who wants to be represented, it's very different with vodka, because vodka's neutral. But often with other brands, they'll go, these are our flavor pairings that we officially broadcast with this product. So use them. Use one of these. Like if I remember correctly, Bullet Bourbon Peach, they say is a flavor pairing.
Yeah, because one friend of ours, he was the one that won that little competition, and he did a peach soda, which was, I remember when I tried it, it was actually very nice.
Pickled peach. Yeah.
Pickled peach soda. Yeah, and it was very nice when he did it.
It was really
very
good.
Nice.
Really
and
good.
then what happened is sometimes when you work with some people that don't kind of giving up on the job, they fucked up the recipe at some point at the end.
Always happens.
Yeah, and it was so sour. It was so sour.
Yeah.
It was like gloopy and sour because they thickened the soda for some reason. So it was just syrupy, and then you put it in the cocktail. It was literally just tasted like citric acid.
This is another issue we were talking about. Yeah. I mean, well, I'm gonna go back.
Yeah.
Actually, you reminded me to pre-batches. Some places I remember being somewhere, and they had a coffee infused. They had one cocktail that was coffee infused, blah, 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 whatever. Or, there was a cocktail pre-batched. One of the ingredients was a whiskey that was coffee infused with coffee beans for however long. And whoever was doing the infusion and the prep and the pre-batching and whatnot got it wrong and instead put instant coffee.
Oh,
instead of whole coffee beans.
Yeah.
So the whole thing, it was this really nice, elegant looking, like clear cocktail. It had some color, but then because you've poured a load of instant coffee into 5 liters of, strong booze, non-diluted cocktail, you can't throw 5 liters. That's a crazy loss.
Yeah, no one's gonna throw it out away. No.
And it's like. It was turned up one day. I remember people were like, what the fuck is this? This is wrong. Like, this isn't right. This isn't the right drink. And I'm not going to say it everywhere. Because I remember originally working at Bit 1, but then again, it wasn't 5 litres worth at a time.
No.
It was you make a drink wrong, you throw it away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It used to be like, okay, you fucked it up, do it again. We have a wastage tab. We can use it. You fucked it up. We rather you serve the right thing than not. And some people sometimes didn't follow that, but when you're in training, you rather throw someone's drinks in the sink than actually serving it the wrong thing. You know?
But so like there's if you've got larger batches even that are completely fucked, there's this horrible attitude of like I can't throw away 5 liters of
Yeah, you're gonna
this
try
and
it.
that
You're
and
gonna
those
do
other things.
something to fix it. That's
Or you
what
just
happens.
you go, well, this is a one-off. We're not doing that again.
Yeah, this is another downside of pre-batching, exactly,
Yeah.
which is like if you fuck up a recipe, you fuck up a lot of it.
Yeah.
You fuck up a lot of it, and then it is a big high. Like it's actually on back a house. There's a larger risk of wastage actually, because if you fuck it up, you fuck it up in large amounts. There's also the fact that this isn't. I just remember that, but it's imagine like usually you do the pre-batching in large vessels.
Yeah, some sort of big container.
And then what do? You either strain into another container, you spill a little bit.
Yeah.
You pour into multiple bottles for the speed rail. You spill a little bit every time you do
Yeah.
it. And sometimes accidents happen, and you keep spilling, and then you spill when you're working on the bar, or you fuck up a drink, and then the spillage, the dimensions of spillage and the dimensions of wastage that you actually do from the beginning of the pre-batching until the end are much larger than if you're doing a drink from scratch at the time of the service.
Yeah.
So that's actually something that should be considered. That we sometimes don't think, but I remember like thinking about it, and we've discussed this before. I remember when we were doing pre-batching, it's like, how much are we wasting every time we're like pouring 12 bottles with a funnel, and sometimes the funnel like gurgles,
spits out
a bit, and you sometimes don't measure it right, like how much you're pouring into the funnel, you over pour a little bit, and then sometimes you try to put the funnel into the other. It's like, so it's in the rush of things, especially when we had bars where the pre-batching wasn't enough for the service, so it's actually hurting the service, and you go and you're rushing it, and you don't even do the right thing.
Yeah.
You're actually hurting yourself more than if you're teaching your bartenders to be consistent in front of house, to do every drink from scratch.
I like the only, or the best way that I can think that pre-batching was done was by learning by units, effectively, or have a recipe that is in the same sort of denominated units as the blend. So if you have perfect example, Negroni, equal measures.
Yeah.
You will pre-batch that by grabbing one bottle together.
Yeah.
For example, if you're pre-batching whatever drink and you've got a container that's going to keep your pre-batch in, you'll tend to take your bottle, I want to make X amount of batch, so I need Y amount of this ingredient for that measure of batch. So you open your... Thank you. You'd open... whatever product, you'd measure that in something. So you'd you're going to spill a bit, pour it into one container, measure it out. You're going to have some error on that measure. It's going to be small, but you're going to have some error.
Of course,
inevitably. You're going to pour that into this large container. You're going to have a little bit of spillage, a little bit of residue left in your measuring device. You're going to, with all the ingredients... Then you're going to take this large container, you're going to use that to fill up however many bottles every time, a little bit of spill, that's overlooked. And then you go into your normal service, where then you have your bottle of pre-batch on the bar with you. You pour that out, there's going to be inevitable little bit of spill into your jigger, from the jigger to the tin. There's all these little bits where tiny bits are being lost. And... like the only way that you can kind of minimize that is if you have recipes that are easily compartmentalized into whole bottles. If I have a bottle of Campari, sweet vermouth, and gin, all 700 mils, well, I don't need to measure those out. I can straight in. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
and that's not always going to be possible, unless if you're making tens of liters.
Yeah, I do remember working in this top 50 bar where like pre-batching is starting to overcome the service as well. And I remember like we used to follow these Excel sheets where basically they told us like, oh, okay, count how many empty bottles of each cocktail the pre-batched cocktail is missing, and put them in this Excel sheet, and it'll tell you how many bottles you can do, and you'll give you the ingredient, like the amount of the ingredients. But the amounts were always a bit wild because he wasn't counting by bottles; he was counting by the
mils.
The mils.
Yeah.
So it was wild measurements, like 137 mils of a certain liqueur, or 115 mils of bitters. It was really strange. So and you know, until you start like actually making the measurements, it's more time consuming. With otherwise, when I start working, so there was the multiple bars with different menus on this place. I started working with someone else, and he was a lot smarter. Like in the smaller bar there, he wouldn't just follow the recipes. He'd be like, "Listen, like you got these many bottles to do, so this is about." So you count about like, okay, so it's like 4 bottles of cachaça along with these 2 bottles. So he had created recipes for like singular bottles. Like a batch is a bottle of cachaça plus a half a bottle of this liqueur and this and that. So if you just multiply it by the bottles you had, you was like, okay, you do 3 bottles of cachaça, 2 bottles of this, and like you have actually made it a lot more a lot more. So when you're creating,
it's a lot more manageable.
Yeah, so that's another problem.
And to be quick with as well.
Yeah, so exactly. So this is the issue about people not creating pre-batches well. This is another thing. If you're going to create a pre-batched cocktail, do not see them as... No, but the thing is, you do the maths, right? Don't create them as a single... If you're going to pre-batch a cocktail, don't create them by the singular measures. Scale that ratio into the bottles. Instead of creating the ratio of 50 mils of the spirit... to a bottle of that spirit, and do the ratio of every ingredient afterwards of the liqueurs and bitters and everything, and it makes it easier for the bartenders to be able to create the pre-batches instead of going by the ratios of like how many mils they need. You create the ratios by the bottle, and that makes an easier pre-batch.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree, but this goes back to being an issue with pre-batching. To do with like how I don't think you can, if you're trying to make the perfect drink, if you're trying to make a good drink, you can't just go, it's a bit sweet, but if I add less sugar, then that's going to make a difficult pre-batch. I guess it will just be sweet. Like you can't bend your drink to make it easier to pre-batch. Then you're just going to be selling a shit drink. You know, so it's fundamentally flawed.
Never settle. The thing about like doing a cocktail, or it's like a recipe that you really need to look at it with love. Like you can't settle. You need to make the best you can with what you have. You should never settle unless you have to, which sometimes you have to, but only if you're under pressure. That's what I would say. Should we cut it off here?
Oh, yeah, I mean, well, we didn't really discuss cocktail week. We actually went back.
Okay. I guess that's what happens sometimes.
Oh, it does.
All right. So we'll actually, you know what? We're going to discuss London Cocktail Week when we actually experience it. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you for watching. Yeah. And we'll see us next week, and you probably will know what our actual podcast name is going to be now. It might have a name by then. Yes, hopefully. Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much, and see you next time. All right. All right.